The Aquarian Council's chamber was a spectacle of underwater architecture, its transparent dome offering a mesmerizing view of bioluminescent sea creatures weaving through vibrant coral formations. Delegates from across the galaxy sat around a massive circular table, their diverse forms reflecting the vastness of interstellar politics. Jack Reynolds, Earth's military commander, sat in his worn tactical armor, a stark contrast to the ornate robes of his counterparts. Across the table, Nurala Tavin, the Auroran ambassador, exuded confidence, her orange skin glowing faintly under the ambient light. Her white-gray head tails twitched subtly, a sign of her readiness to dominate the discussion. As the session turned to trade routes through the Ignis corridor, Nurala rose, her voice laced with condescension. Allowing humans to control the Ignis route is a mistake. They're just children playing with technology they don't understand. Jack stood, his posture rigid but his tone measured. Ambassador Tavin, Earth has proven its capabilities through many events, including protecting Auroras during the Proxima conflict. Nurala sneered, her head tails flicking dismissively. Protection? Or just lucky survival through brute force? Humans lack the finesse required for interstellar diplomacy. Jack's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. And Aurorans are too arrogant to recognize the value of their allies. We should focus on cooperation, not personal attacks. Chairman Dravk, a Valyrian with 4 piercing eyes, raised a hand. Enough. We are here to discuss policy, not engage in personal disputes. Proceed. The exchange left a charged silence in the chamber, with other delegates exchanging glances, aware of the brewing rivalry between the human and Auroran representatives. After the council session adjourned, Jack navigated the translucent corridors of the palace, his mind racing with frustration. Nurala's relentless mockery of Earth's contributions, particularly her dismissal of their sacrifices in the Proxima conflict, had pushed him to his limit. He spotted her ahead, her orange silhouette unmistakable against the ocean's glow, and quickened his pace. Ambassador Tavin, he called out, his voice steady but firm. She turned, her head tails twitching with mild irritation. What is it, Commander Reynolds? Jack stopped a few steps away, his expression calculated. I think we should volunteer for the Frontier Outpost mission together. It would demonstrate unity between our worlds. Nurala raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on her lips. Unity with you? That's amusing. But fine, I accept. Let's see if you can keep up with me. Jack's eyes glinted with subtle challenge. Or maybe you'll find it more difficult than you expect. The outpost has no luxuries, just real diplomacy. Nurala laughed, her tone sharp and confident. You think I can't handle it? All right, Commander. Game on. With a nod, Jack turned away, a flicker of satisfaction crossing his face. The isolated Frontier Outpost 7 was notorious for testing even the most seasoned diplomats, and he was counting on it to humble the arrogant Auroran. Unbeknownst to him, this decision would lead to consequences far beyond his original intent. Frontier Outpost 7 was a far cry from the opulent Aquarian Council Palace. Perched precariously above the churning clouds of a gas giant, the outpost was a cramped, functional structure with just enough space for diplomatic necessities and basic living quarters. The sense of isolation was immediate, amplified by the absence of the luxuries Jack and Nurala were accustomed to. Their diplomatic shuttle docked with a soft thud, and the airlock cycled open to reveal the outpost director, a diminutive insectoid creature with a gleaming exoskeleton that clicked as it moved. Welcome to Frontier Outpost 7, the director announced, its voice buzzing through a translator. We have prepared a traditional welcome ceremony for you and the Trellian delegates. The Trellians, their iridescent skin shimmering with emotional hues, awaited them in the reception area. Their graceful forms bowed in greeting, their skin pulsing a formal blue. Jack and Nurala returned the gesture, though the tension between them was palpable. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt, featuring an array of local delicacies, strange, gelatinous morsels that Jack eyed with suspicion. The centerpiece was the Aurelian brandy, a luminous blue liquid served in delicate crystal glasses that caught the dim light of the outpost. Nurala picked up a glass, her head-tails twitching with intrigue. She raised it toward Jack, a sly grin spreading across her face. "Don't worry, Commander. I handle my liquor better than most humans." Jack's brow furrowed. "That brandy is potent. Even Aurorans should be careful." Nurala's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "I've been part of Galactic society since before your species left its cradle. I know my limits." She took a bold sip, then another, her confidence unshaken. Jack watched her closely, a mix of concern and wry amusement in his eyes. He knew the brandy's reputation for loosening inhibitions across species, but challenging Nurala's pride would only spur her on. As the evening wore on, the mood lightened. The Trellians, their skin now flickering with greens and yellows of contentment, shared stories of their trade routes. Nurala, however, grew noticeably more relaxed, her usual sharpness dulled by the brandy's subtle influence. As the welcome ceremony concluded, the Trellians and the outpost director retired, leaving Jack and Nurala alone in the reception area. The viewport framed the gas giant's swirling storms, casting a soft, ethereal light across the room. The silence between them was heavy, yet not entirely uncomfortable. The Aurelian brandy, with its luminous blue hue, had left its mark on both, though Nurala had consumed far more than Jack. Nurala leaned back in her chair, her head-tails swaying languidly, a faint flush on her orange skin. "You know, Jack," she said, her voice tinged with a slight slur, "sometimes I think we're not so different, you and I." Jack set his glass down, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Is that the brandy talking, or do you really mean that?" She tilted her head, her gray-blue eyes studying him with a newfound softness. "Maybe both. You're not just a brute in armor. There's depth to you." Jack's smile softened. "And you're not just a haughty diplomat. You're passionate, dedicated. Maybe we do have more in common than we thought." Nurala leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Don't tell anyone I said that." Their laughter broke the tension, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. The brandy had stripped away their usual defenses, revealing glimpses of the people behind the titles. Jack spoke of the Proxima conflict, the weight of leading soldiers into battle, and the loneliness of command. "Sometimes," he admitted, "I wonder if I'm fighting for Earth or just trying to prove something to myself." Nurala nodded, her head-tails curling thoughtfully. "I know that feeling. On Auroras, every decision I make is judged. One misstep, and I'm a failure to my people. It's exhausting." Their words grew more personal, their laughter more genuine. The isolation of the outpost, combined with the brandy's warmth, created a bubble where their roles as commander and ambassador faded. They were just Jack and Nurala, two souls finding unexpected common ground. As the night deepened, they moved to Nurala's quarters, seeking a more private space. The room was small but cozy, with a large viewport offering a breathtaking view of the gas giant storms. They sat on the edge of the bed, their shoulders touching, as they continued to talk. Nurala confessed her fears of failing as a diplomat. "What if I'm not enough?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What if I let my people down?" Jack squeezed her hand gently. "You're more than enough. You're brilliant, Nurala, and you're not alone in this." Their hands remained intertwined, the touch electric, Nurala looked into Jack's eyes, seeing not the rival she had always perceived, but a man who understood her in ways she hadn't thought possible. Jack saw in her not the arrogant alien, but a woman as complex and multifaceted as he was. In that moment, the barriers between them crumbled. They leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that was both tender and passionate, a release of all the tension and attraction that had been building. The night became a blur of discovery and connection, as they explored each other's bodies and souls, forgetting the worlds they represented and the roles they played. When they finally fell asleep, wrapped in each other's arms, they were at peace, unaware of the complications awaiting them in the morning. Jack stirred awake, his head throbbing faintly from the Aurelian brandy's lingering effects. The dim light filtering through the viewport cast soft shadows across Nurala's quarters, revealing the tangled sheets and her still form beside him. Her orange skin seemed paler in the morning glow, her head tails resting limply against the pillow, a stark contrast to her usual poised demeanor. He sat up slowly, careful not to disturb her, and ran a hand through his disheveled hair. The weight of the previous night settled over him like a heavy fog. This wasn't part of the plan. He'd wanted to humble her, not entangle their lives in such an irreversible way. Glancing at her, he noticed the faint crease in her brow, even in sleep, as if her subconscious wrestled with the same turmoil he felt. Nurala's eyes fluttered open, and for a fleeting moment, confusion clouded her gray-blue gaze. Then recognition hit, and she bolted upright, clutching the sheet to her chest. "This was a mistake," she said, her voice sharp and edged with panic. "A lapse in judgment. It can't happen again." Jack nodded, his throat tight with guilt. "I agree. We were both under the influence. It wasn't us." Her eyes searched his, probing for sincerity or perhaps a hint of blame. "We need to forget this ever happened," she said, her tone resolute but brittle. "Our mission is too important to be derailed by personal complications. Professionalism above all else," Jack replied, though the words rang hollow. The memory of their shared vulnerability, the warmth of her touch, lingered like an unwelcome guest. He pushed it aside, knowing they couldn't afford to dwell on it. Nurala rose, wrapping herself in a robe with swift, practiced movements. Her hands trembled slightly as she tied the sash, betraying the composure she tried to project. "I need to prepare for the negotiations," she said, avoiding his gaze. "We can't afford any distractions." Jack watched her, his concern growing. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked, his voice softer than intended. She shot him a look, half warning, half plea. "I'm fine. Just let's not make this more complicated than it already is." He nodded, respecting her need for distance. "All right, I'll see you at the meeting." As she slipped out of the room, Jack exhaled, trying to quell the unease gnawing at him. He dressed quickly, the routine grounding him, but the memory of their night together clung stubbornly. Whatever had happened, it had shifted something fundamental between them, and he wasn't sure they could truly leave it behind. The negotiation room at Frontier Outpost 7 was stark and utilitarian, its metal walls amplifying the tension of interstellar diplomacy. The Trellian sat across from Jack and Nurala, their iridescent skin shifting in hues that Jack had begun to decipher. Today's blue-green suggested cautious optimism. The table between them was littered with data pads and holographic star charts, outlining the proposed trade route through the Ignis corridor. Nurala led the discussion with her usual precision, her voice steady as she countered the Trellian's concerns about security risks. Jack admired her skill, but his attention kept drifting to subtle signs of strain. The way she paused to press a hand to her temple, the slight pallor dulling her vibrant orange skin. "Ambassador Tavin," The lead Trellian delegate, Pax, said, his skin flashing a concerned yellow. Are you quite all right? You seem distracted. Nurala forced a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. Just a slight headache. Please, let's continue. Jack leaned closer, his voice low. Maybe you should take a break. Her gaze snapped to him, sharp and unyielding. I'm fine, commander. Let's not keep our guests waiting. The negotiation pressed on, with Pax outlining a new clause about shared patrols. But Jack's unease grew. Nurala's head tails twitched erratically, a telltale sign of distress he'd learned to recognize. Her hands, usually steady, gripped the edge of the table as if anchoring her against an unseen tide. As Pax projected a revised star chart, Nurala suddenly swayed in her seat, her knuckles whitening on the table. Jack was on his feet instantly, crossing to her side. Nurala, that's enough. You need to rest. She tried to brush him off, her voice faint but defiant. I said I'm fine. Pax stood, his skin now a deep red of alarm. Perhaps we should adjourn for now. Your health is paramount, Ambassador. Nurala opened her mouth to argue, but another wave of dizziness forced her eyes shut, her breath hitching. Maybe just a short break, she conceded, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack supported her as she stood, his arms steady around her waist. Her trembling was unmistakable now, and he guided her out of the room, ignoring the concerned murmurs of the Trellians. In a corridor, away from prying eyes, he stopped. What's going on? He asked, his tone urgent. She pulled away, her expression a mix of frustration and fear. I don't know. It's probably just the brandy. I'll be fine. Jack told him otherwise. The brandy's effect should have faded by now, and her symptoms, pallor, dizziness, nausea, hinted at something deeper. He wanted to press her, but the fear in her eyes held him back. Let's get you to your quarters, he said instead, keeping his voice calm. As they walked, her steps unsteady, Jack couldn't shake the growing suspicion that their night together had set something in motion, something neither of them was prepared to face. Nurala sat alone at the terminal in her quarters at Frontier Outpost 7, the soft glow of the screen casting flickering shadows across the stark metal walls. Her fingers trembled as she typed cross-species reproduction compatibility into the medical database, driven by a growing unease about her persistent dizziness and nausea. The search results loaded quickly, displaying a series of articles confirming the genetic incompatibility between humans and Aurorans. But one entry caught her eye: adaptive genetic resonance, a theoretical framework for interspecies fertility. She clicked on it, her pulse quickening. The article detailed a rare phenomenon where specific substances could temporarily align genetic structures, enabling reproduction between otherwise incompatible species. The primary catalyst listed was Aurelian brandy, noted for its psychoactive and mutagenic properties. Adaptive genetic resonance, caused by Aurelian brandy, she read aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Is that possible? The implications hit her like a shockwave. The night with Jack, the brandy's intoxicating warmth, it all came rushing back. She needed confirmation. Rising swiftly, she left her quarters and headed to the medical bay, where Dr. Lin, the outpost's chief physician, was calibrating a diagnostic scanner. Dr. Lin, Nurala said, striving to keep her tone steady. I need a private consultation. Dr. Lin, a middle-aged human with a calm, professional demeanor, nodded and gestured to an examination room. Of course, Ambassador. What's troubling you? Nurala hesitated, then spoke. I've been experiencing symptoms, dizziness, nausea. I suspect it might be linked to the Aurelian brandy from the welcome ceremony. Dr. Lin's eyes narrowed slightly, but she proceeded without comment. She ran a series of scans, her fingers moving deftly over the console. After a tense silence, she turned to Nurala, her expression grave. The results are clear, Ambassador. You are pregnant with a human-Auran hybrid embryo. Nurala's breath caught, her head-tails stiffening in shock. That's impossible. Our species can't interbreed. Not under normal circumstances, Dr. Len replied. But the Aurelian brandy contains compounds that can trigger genetic compatibility. It's rare. Only a few documented cases exist, but the science is sound. Nurala's mind reeled. What do I do now? That's your decision, Dr. Len said gently. This pregnancy will require close monitoring due to the hybrid embryo's unique nature. You should also consider the diplomatic ramifications. Nurala nodded, her thoughts a chaotic swirl. She needed time to process this revelation, to weigh her options without the weight of galactic politics pressing down on her. The transport ship hummed through the void, its sleek interior a stark contrast to the cramped outpost. Jack and Nurala sat in the passenger compartment, summoned back to the Aquarian Council headquarters to address an escalating dispute with the Taurians over mineral rights in the Cygnus asteroid belt. The mission at the outpost had been cut short, leaving their negotiations with the Trellians unresolved. Jack glanced at Nurala, who sat across from him, her gaze fixed on the starfield beyond the viewport. Her silence was uncharacteristic, her head-tails rigid with tension. Since leaving the outpost, she had been withdrawn, and Jack couldn't ignore the nagging sense that something was deeply wrong. "You're awfully quiet," he said, his voice cutting through the hum of the engines. "Is something wrong?" Nurala turned to him, her gray-blue eyes guarded. "Just thinking about the Taurians. They're unpredictable, and this dispute could get messy." Jack leaned forward, studying her closely. The faint tremor in her voice, the way she avoided his gaze, wasn't just the Taurians. "That's not it," he pressed. "You've been off since we left the outpost. Talk to me." She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the armrest. "It's nothing. We have a mission to focus on." Jack's jaw tightened. He remembered her near collapse during the Trellian negotiations, the pallor of her skin. "Nurala, if there's something you're not telling me, I need to know. We're in this together, whether we like it or not." Her eyes flashed with a mix of fear and resolve. "There's nothing to tell, Jack. Let's just do our jobs." The intercom crackled, announcing their approach to the council headquarters. Jack held her gaze for a moment longer, searching for answers she wasn't ready to give. He let it drop, but the weight of her silence lingered, a silent promise that whatever she was hiding would soon surface. The Aquarian Council chamber buzzed with tension, its translucent walls framing the ocean depths beyond. Delegates from across the galaxy sat in tiered rows, their diverse forms, scaled, furred, or luminescent, focused on the heated debate over mineral rights in the Cygnus asteroid belt. Jack Reynolds and Nurala Tavin stood at the center podium, representing Earth and Auroras in a delicate alliance against the Taurians' aggressive claims. The Taurian ambassador, a hulking figure with a voice like grinding stone, pounded a massive fist on the table. "Earth has no right to mine the Cygnus belt," he roared. "Your primitive extraction methods will destabilize the region." Jack countered, his tone firm but diplomatic. "Earth's technology is proven, Ambassador. We've offered shared oversight to ensure stability." Nurala, beside him, was outlining a compromise when a sudden wave of dizziness struck. Her hand clutched her abdomen, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "I need," she managed, her voice faltering as her head-tails drooped. Jack's eyes widened, and he moved to her side in an instant. "Nurala," he shouted, catching her as she swayed. The chamber erupted in murmurs as she collapsed into his arms, her orange skin unnaturally pale. Panic surged through Jack. Without thinking, He turned to the stunned delegates, his voice raw with urgency. "She's pregnant, with my child." A collective gasp swept the room. The Valyrian delegates' 4 eyes blinked rapidly, while the Trellian skin flashed a chaotic red. "What? Impossible!" a council member shouted, their voice drowned by the rising clamor. Chairman Dravk slammed a gavel, his authoritative presence cutting through the chaos. "Silence! Get her to the medical bay now." Jack lifted Nurala, her slight frame limp against him, and rushed her out of the chamber, trailed by a medic team. The weight of his impulsive declaration hit him as he moved, but there was no time for regret. Nurala's shallow breathing demanded his focus. In the council's medical bay, a sterile room lined with advanced diagnostic equipment, Nurala lay on a biobed, her vitals displayed on a hovering screen. Dr. Len, summoned from Frontier Outpost 7, worked swiftly, administering a stabilizing agent to counter the hormonal imbalance caused by the hybrid embryo. Jack stood nearby, his hands clenched, watching his color slowly return to Nurala's face. Nurala stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "What happened?" she murmured, her voice weak. "You collapsed during the meeting," Jack said, his relief palpable. "You're stable now, but it was close." Dr. Lin stepped back, her expression professional but empathetic. "The pregnancy is putting significant strain on your system, Ambassador. The hybrid embryo's hormones are triggering a rejection response. We've neutralized it for now, but you'll need ongoing treatment." Nurala's gaze hardened as she registered Jack's presence. "You told them," she said, her tone a mix of accusation and exhaustion. "The entire council knows." Before Jack could respond, Chairman Dravk entered, his four-eyed gaze sweeping the room. "This is unprecedented," he said, his voice measured but heavy with implication. "A human-Auran pregnancy could reshape interstellar relations. How do we address this?" Jack straightened, meeting Dravk's eyes. "We take responsibility," he said firmly. "This doesn't change our commitment to the council or our duties." Nurala's hand gripped the edge of the biobed, her voice faint but resolute. "You didn't have to announce it like that, Jack." He turned to her, his expression softening. "I wasn't thinking about politics. I was thinking about you, about getting you help." Her eyes searched his, a flicker of understanding passing between them despite the tension. The room fell silent, the weight of the public revelation settling over them. Beyond the medical bay, whispers of the scandal were already spreading through the council, with delegates debating the implications for Earth-Auran relations. Dr. Lin broke the silence. "Ambassador, you'll need to rest and follow a strict medical regimen. The council will have to decide how to proceed, but your health comes first." Dravk nodded, his gaze lingering on Jack and Nurala. "We'll reconvene tomorrow to discuss next steps. For now, focus on recovery." As Dravk left, Jack remained by Nurala's side, the unspoken bond between them strained but unbroken. The secret was out, and the galaxy was watching. 6 months had passed since the scandal that shook the Aquarian Council. Jack Reynolds and Nurala Tavin had settled into a shared residence in a neutral diplomatic enclave on the Council's aquatic world, a modest apartment adorned with a blend of Earth's rugged furnishings and Auroran art, vibrant tapestries interwoven with bioluminescent threads. The space was a testament to their uneasy but evolving partnership, a microcosm of 2 worlds learning to coexist. Nurala, now visibly pregnant, moved with a careful grace, her orange skin glowing faintly under the enclave's soft lighting. Her head tails, once rigid with tension, now curled gently, reflecting a cautious acceptance of her new reality. Jack, ever the soldier, had traded his tactical armor for civilian clothes, though his posture retained a disciplined edge. They spent their days navigating diplomatic duties and preparing for the arrival of their child, a human-Auroran hybrid whose existence continued to spark debate across the galaxy. The couple faced relentless scrutiny. Earth's media speculated about Jack's loyalty, while Auroran broadcasts questioned Nurala's judgment. Yet, pockets of support emerged. Scientists fascinated by the hybrid's potential, diplomats advocating for interspecies unity. Today, they stood before a press conference, a rare public appearance to address the galaxy's curiosity and criticism. The conference room was packed, its transparent walls offering a view of the ocean's depths, where bioluminescent creatures darted through the currents. Reporters from various species, human, Trellian, Valyrian, clutched data pads, their questions poised like weapons. A human journalist from Earth's Galactic News Network rose first, her tone sharp. "Ambassador Tavin," she said, "some argue your relationship undermines your neutrality as a diplomat. How do you respond?" Nurala stood at the podium, her hand resting lightly on her abdomen, her gray-blue eyes steady. "Our relationship proves that even the most opposed can find common ground," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "That's the essence of diplomacy, building bridges where none existed." Jack stepped forward, his presence grounding her. "And we're raising our son to embody that unity," he added, his tone firm but warm. "He's a symbol of what's possible when we work together." A Trellian reporter, their skin pulsing a curious yellow, raised a hand. "Commander Reynolds, how do you address Earth's concerns about your divided loyalties?" Jack met their gaze. "My loyalty is to Earth and to the Council's mission of peace. My personal life doesn't change that. If anything, it strengthens my resolve to show humanity's capacity for collaboration." Nurala nodded, her head-tails swaying slightly. "On Aurorus, we value harmony. This partnership, it's a step toward a more integrated galaxy." The questions continued, some supportive, others probing. A Valyrian journalist asked about the child's health, prompting Nurala to share that regular medical oversight ensured the pregnancy's stability, though challenges remained due to the hybrid's unique biology. Jack fielded queries about their daily life, describing their efforts to blend cultures, from Earth's music filling their home to Auroran rituals marking the pregnancy's milestones. As the conference ended, the reporters dispersed, their data pads already transmitting the story across the stars. Jack and Nurala lingered at the podium, their hands brushing briefly, a quiet gesture of solidarity. Outside, the ocean's glow seemed to mirror the hope they clung to, despite the galaxy's divided opinions.